Welcome to the podcast. I'm Scott McLean. My guest today is John Shrey. John is the director, a national director of the veteran. Well, you know what? I'm going to let John do this. I should know better by now. I should know better than not to give somebody, read somebody's title. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to insult my friend here. So, John Shrey, what do you do? Tell us what you do.
So I guess the technical term is National Director of Military Affairs for Haven for Heroes and Haven Health Management.
There you go. Yeah. I would have totally demolished that. No doubt about it, I would have demolished that. Bad interviewer. So you're a veteran?
I am.
Okay, before we get into that, where are you from?
So I'm from Boca, where we are now. Born and raised down here in South Florida, not too far from where we are. And, I moved away for quite some time, but I'm, back here in my home.
There you go. Right down the street from the One Man, One Mic Foundation studio, One Man, One Mic Foundation, where we teach veterans how to podcast and we teach them the healing power of storytelling. If you want to check us out, it's onemanOneMicFoundation.org. And my friend John is, he's near and dear to this foundation. So maybe we'll get to that later, but this is not about me. This is all about my friend here.
But you got a sweet setup now. This looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, really come together.
It took a while, as you know. I kept saying, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And you were like, when are we doing this? So, all right. So when did you went in the Marines?
I did.
Why the Marines?
Again, in my mind, I never was going to join the military. I used to hang up on the recruiter when he'd call me. I was like their perfect, what would you call it?
Like the test, acid test.
Well, I was a perfect mark, right? I was athletic. I played a lot of sports. I did very well in school, but I always get in trouble. I had bad, conduct grades. So I think that's just that checked every box for the Marine Corps. Yeah. So, but I used to hang up on them, and I had no intention to join the military. I joined at 25 years old, so that'll tell you. The Marines, because, I had always been told, I am a type of guy who, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to jump all the way in and go at it, as hard as I can. And my cousin had, gone through boot camp and some things happened, but I just always had I just love the Marine. Again, it never crossed my mind to join, but if it was going to join, it was going to be the Marines.
Okay, what year did you go in?
2006.
2006. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that was right in the heat of it all.
Yeah, it's the only reason I got in. They were doing that bump. I think we had 180,000 Marines. They were trying to get it up over 200. So I had a bunch of waivers because, like I said, I had a somewhat checkered past at that point. And so I had 7 waivers that they had to okay before I even got in because the 2 wars were going on.
Do you ever look back now and go, Jesus?
Yeah.
How did they ever let me in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you go in, you go through basic training. Now, this is an important question for Marines. Where did you go to basic training?
I went to the Paris Island, the boot camp, for sure.
I had no idea there was anything other than Paris Island when I was, but when it came to Marines and all that, and I was an Air Force guy, so there's only one place for us. But I learned over the years that there is a rivalry between where you went to basic training.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you go into basic training. What was your job?
1371, combat engineer. Kind of tricked into that too. My recruiter said I was going to be a helicopter crew chief. That's what my cousin had told me to do, and he said you'll get a good job after. Then the recruiter told me you'll get to blow shit up, and you'll see some action on the front lines, but you won't be on the front lines. I said that sounds pretty cool to me, so I signed up for it. And 2 years later, my first deployment, I was the guy sweeping for the infantry guys. So not only was I on the front lines, I was in front of the infantry. So I remember literally a real thought when I was sweeping one day of this motherfucker, bro. If I ever see him again.
Gotcha.
Got him. Yep.
So I guess the natural next question is, what was it like? Just your perspective, your experiences.
The Marine Corps and
just going over there.
Well, going overseas was I mean, it was just a very surreal experience, you know. First of all, when I did get to the Marine Corps, I didn't buy in fully. You know, I even got in trouble right after boot camp. You know, I wasn't really buying into the whole Marine Corps, you know, honor, courage, commitment thing. Again, I had not been doing the right thing for a couple years in my life. So it got to when I finally got to my duty station, which is in 29 Palms, California, and I had a group of guys with me, and I remember it was just a switch that got flipped in 2007. So I'd been in about a year where like I made a commitment to like I bought in because of the guys I was with, and like we started to form this brotherhood, and I started to really buy into what it was like to be, you know, to be a Marine, or, you know, to be, you know, fighting for my country, whatever, all those different things, you know, that I really just never really could connect with before. I was just trying not to get in trouble. And so I went overseas in 2008, and I mean, it's something I miss more than anything in the world, right? Like that brotherhood, that like life or death, you know, that like bunker mentality with your guys. It was great, you know. Now, not to say that I loved getting shot at, or I loved watching, you know, people die or get their, you know, a lot of my roommate lost his leg, you know, one of my best friends KIA, you know, whatever. So that sucks. There's no way around it. But the whole experience was very surreal. Getting shot at, surreal. Shooting at people is surreal. It's really just it's the job, you know, and it's just, when in Rome, you know, act like, you know, you just do what you're supposed to do. So
that's an odd question. How much did street smarts, because you were evidently a pretty street smart kid going into this, all troublemakers are.
Right.
People that get in trouble usually have that side to them. How much of that kind of took over at certain points? I know you have your training and all that, but how much of that mindset played into any of it, if any?
I don't know if it was the streets. I don't know what you would call it, but like my instincts are always like go, go, go. I'm always been the one to go first, right? Like, you know, if we were stealing beer, right, it just comes to mind, right, with my as a young kid, like I'm the one who's going to steal the beer. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of been my mentality, and I think that was, you know, perfect for the Marine Corps. I think that a lot of the guys like that joined the Marine Corps, and there were some guys that were far ballsier than me, though. I'm not to say that I was like number one out the door, you know, but I think street smarts, as in like thinking on your feet, you know, quick reacting to things, you know, having been through some life experiences, definitely helped harden me, and kind of it wasn't too much of a shock when shit got chaotic, you know?
Yeah, it hardened you, but nothing can prepare you.
No.
It's natural instincts kick in. It's your environment that you grew up in. It's how you lived until you got to that point. I'm sure you saw men and women from the other side of that might not have been able to handle it in any situation, or you saw them handle it. It's all, I guess, relevant in where you're from.
Yeah.
And how you lived your life before you got there.
Definitely.
But it's nothing prepares you, I'm sure. So you go over, how long were you over there for?
8 months in 2008 and 7 months in 2010.
Both the same place?
Pretty close to the same place. Helmand Province. First deployment was in a town called Nowzad. Second deployment spent a lot of time in a town called Sangin. I mean, you know, Deerfield to Delray kind of separation, but you know, it could take days to get from point A to point B over there because you're clearing routes, you know.
Right. Any stories that you have that you want to?
I mean, if you ask me, I don't like.
Yeah. What's the? No, I'm not going to ask you.
Right.
I think that's not relevant, really.
Yeah.
So you're there, 2 deployments.
Yeah. I'll tell you what you're asking, right? So I will say when like something that's really interesting, like the surrealness of it, right? Like when you get blown up, right?
Yeah.
Nobody in my vehicle got hurt, got killed or you know, lost legs or anything. But it's like the minute that the IED goes off, everything turns gray from like all the soot and everything going up into the vehicle, and it's amazing how fast you turn to just your training kicks in, or the fundamentals kick in, and you're grabbing the radio and you're checking everyone's all right, and you're yelling green, 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 and it just happens so fast. But and you got a bad concussion, but you don't feel anything, and it's almost like you're outside of your body kind of experience, not like in a spiritual way, but you're just reacting, but you're not even thinking. So
yeah. So from that, the concussion, were there any after effects, side effects?
Yeah, I mean, my first concussion, the first of the two blasts was really was rough. When we got back to the fob, we were like headaches. We had to stay in this dark room for a couple days. Nausea, things like that. It was a pretty good boom. Second one, not quite as bad, but because it was my second one in a month or whatever, that's when I had to be medevaced, and I was non-deployable. So
you end up with the non-deployable status.
Yes.
So where does that take you?
So that takes me to Parris Island. In fact, I don't think I would have even re-enlisted. So that was my end of my first 4 years. When I got the non-deployable status, it was like I had extended to go to Afghanistan the second time with my guys. That was kind of non-negotiable. There was no way I wasn't going. But it left me no time to formulate a plan for getting out. So I was newly married, and we decided, like, let's do another 4 years. We decided that before I deployed. So I'd already signed up, re-enlisted, and now they're like, you're non-deployable. So the best, we could do is get as close to South Florida as home, is what we thought. And where it was somewhere that was still kind of like, I could still feel like I was doing something. So I went to Weapons Battalion at Parris Island, which is where the rifle range is, and all the recruits come through to shoot and learn, qualify for rifle. And I spent 4 years there, and life got real quiet. That's where things kind of started taking a little bit of a turn, I would say.
While you were in?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I drank a lot, right? Everyone drank a lot. So it wasn't like a noticeable turn. But I had been on opiates before the Marine Corps and everything. And so when I came to Parris Island and I had a couple different injuries, they put me on a bunch of meds. I was able to get some pain meds, and I was able to drink, because I still show up for work, as long as you show up for work, that's really all I give a shit about. And so the drinking, I guess, kind of progressed. And then when the opiates started coming back in. And so a couple years in, I was, pretty much dependent on alcohol and opiates.
How was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, it was brutal. So
how was it on your family?
So no one knew. Obviously, they knew I drank, right? And my wife knows that we partied together, because I know my wife before the Marine Corps. She and I had known each other since I was 22 years old, just friends. But we partied together. She knows I'm not an angel, which is one of the reasons that I was so happy to marry. She knows even now, right? She knows everything about me. So, but she didn't know the depths of the struggle, and basically I started having to, the way she found out is spending money on the credit card, cash advances to try and get more pills, on the street, and because I didn't have, wasn't getting enough. Yeah, that's how she found out, and she knew exactly what was going on at that point.
And how did that progress?
So I went to treatment. So I popped on a drug test. I told my colonel the truth. I said, I'm really struggling. This is what's going on. Thank God I had a good combat career, because he was like a combat, he was an infantry guy, colonel.
He understood.
And he knew I wasn't just some, piece of shit. Yeah. He knew who I was. So he put me in treatment, and they let me, went to treatment, got out of treatment, got out of the Marine Corps like a month later. My daughter was like 4 months old at the time. Went back to South Florida, bought a little house, like a townhouse. My parents helped us get. And life just completely slowed down. But I had everything, the American dream, war hero, according to, my family, beautiful wife.
Beautiful house, beautiful car.
Yeah, everything, all the bells and whistles or everything, you think you need. And then I would go into that house. I just feel so uncomfortable. It's too quiet. I'm already, now I'm numbing myself with drugs.
How old are you at this point?
2014, 2015, 34. 34, yeah.
Okay.
So just, or 33, 34, one of those two. And, I got a job, but I just, the drug, if you don't do what I've learned, right, is that if you don't do anything about the addiction or your alcoholism, you know what I mean? You're not going to stop. You're not just going to like flip a switch. Everyone would do it if they could, right?
I do know what you mean,
right.
As we know.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know that at the time, but I just couldn't stop. And it just got worse and worse. And then, I did what I thought I had to do, which was, quit creating chaos in the house and just not come home,
So you get home, you get the beautiful house with the beautiful wife, as the song says, and you start hanging out with your friends again, start picking up old relationships, old habits.
Exactly.
And you just start running like you did before because that was the excitement that you needed.
It was the excitement I needed. And again, I say this all the time, like I don't blame the Marine Corps or PTSD for my substance use. And I knew, for me, I knew what would make my brain stop, would slow me down. I knew what would numb me, which was drugs and alcohol. So I did, they were the cure to what was going on in my head temporarily. You know what I mean? So, and you know what? That probably kept me alive, right? I say that too, two of my closest Marines, reason I do what I do now. And, when I get disheartened or anything, I think about these two guys because like they don't have the opportunity to do what we're doing here, and they took their life. And I know if it weren't for drugs, I would have taken my life. I never was a suicidal type of person, but I know that I couldn't stand what was going on in my head, and I hated myself for not being able to go home and be like a dad to this beautiful girl and a husband to this very loyal and supportive wife. I hated myself for that.
Because you were using.
Right. And chicken or the egg, right? Like I'm using to not feel that way, but then it's just making me do more of these things to make me feel like a piece of shit. Or be a piece of shit, really.
So you're working, wife, daughter, house, car. Then there's that side, the other side.
Right.
You're out with your friends. You're using. You're staying out. You're causing chaos in the house. Everything has a tipping point. What was the tipping point?
To start to recover, or
no? There's another story before that, right?
Yeah, the tipping point was my wife had, our relationship had pretty much. If I was still before I left the house, it was just like roommates, right? But roommates where the roommate was stealing, and that would be me, right, and doing everything else. But I loved them, right? Like the proof now. I have tangible proof that I'm not full of shit, right? Like I love my wife. Like she's the best in the world. My daughter, I would have died for her. Right now my question is always like, would you live for her? Right? That was the problem. I easily would catch a bullet for them, and I would tell them that. But that's pretty much what the Marine Corps, right? Like that's what you do. But so I knew. So I just left the house. I just said, why am I going to do this? To them, let me separate myself, and then I lived homeless, and I would overdose and end up in a psych unit.
Well, if you don't mind, let's kind of break that down.
Sure.
So you just say, I can't fucking do this anymore. I'm not going to do this to you. I'm not going to do this to my daughter. I'm not so you said I'm hitting the streets.
I think yes, let's be clear too. My wife didn't want me home either anymore at this point.
Okay,
you know what I mean.
That's important. Yeah,
yeah. But I think it's like who chose to kick out or leave first.
It was a mutual agreement almost.
Without anything being said. It's just I didn't come back, and she'd change the locks, you know what I mean, type of thing. And I would come back home to try and like, you know, get some jewelry, or, you know, I knew how to sneak into the upstairs window, and I had I wasn't allowed near the property. The cops would come. My parents were completely on her side, so fuck them too. Like, they'd call the cops.
Typical addict mentality.
100%.
Yep.
100%. And but she also, I didn't feel any love from her because I had taken all of that, you know. So in my mind, it was like, well, we're not going to be together anyway. You know. Then I go to treatment. I'm in rehab, and I'm getting into relationships with people in there, you know, women in there, and just everything that I could possibly do, because like they would pay attention to me, right? And anything I could do to not feel like the piece of shit that I had become, or to not think about the things that I had done. I was like, that's what I did.
What was the? So you started with opioids. What was the next step?
I mean, I always like uppers, right? So cocaine turned into crack, pills turned into heroin, snorting it, smoking crack turned into shooting cocaine, snorting heroin turned into shooting heroin, turned into anything I had to shoot it. And, you know, then fentanyl was coming around, but I didn't give a shit because it's like every time I wake up in an overdose, like, damn it.
The monster just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
How long were you out in the streets for?
You know, for the better part of 3 years, 3 to 4 years. Left the house the end of like 15, and then I got sober in March of 19 for good. But 2018, I had some time, good amount of time sober. But the better part of like some 15, 16, 17 for sure. Parts of 18 and 19.
We had a conversation once, and I believe I mentioned to you something about there's a foundation somewhere around West Palm, or this, you know, it's this South Florida area, and it's cell phones for soldiers. I had done an interview with them, actually. They're nationwide, and I had told you that they have this plan, this program for veterans, and they offer them cell phones. And you can look them up if you're watching this or listening to this. Cell Phones for Soldiers is an amazing story if you want to listen to the podcast episode. But I remember telling you about that. This was like a year or two. We've known each other for a couple of years, a year and a half. And you were like, dude, where the fuck was that when I was out on the streets?
Right.
Because I remember this struck me. That you were like, fucking, I'd be looking for a place to charge my cell phone so I could, and correct me if I'm wrong, so I could call my dealer or find, you know, my next high. So give us that kind of breakdown of being out there.
Yeah, I mean, so I had a little disability check on the first. Most of it would go, I always kept that going to my wife. Somehow I kept that going into her account, but I had like a certain amount that would come to my account. So I would hope to have a hotel for the first like week of the month. And then from there, it was like whatever I could scrounge up on the streets, you know? I mean, I would try and have my vehicle most of the time, but I would rent my vehicle out for drugs, right? So now I'm walking. And so that's usually when I would be sleeping outside. And yeah, I mean, like, there's a convenience store, a little Haitian grocery store on Boynton Beach Boulevard across from the Marathon. They have an outdoor plug. I can tell you where all the outdoor plugs and outdoor spigots are in Lake Worth and Boynton, you know?
Take a shower, just drink some water, you know, and then plug your phone in, because there weren't too many plugs outside of these, outside for you to use. And so I remember, and it was like the way that, like the one on Boynton, like you had to plug it in, and then you had to like stand as far to your right as you could to like get your service to work without it coming out of the plug, and the plug was behind the ice maker. It was just, but it's, again, like that was almost like being in combat. It was just so surreal, and it was just almost like combat's what you signed up for. Well, I'm a fucking junkie. This is what I signed up for. You know, and every day was a mission. You know, I had a $200 to $300 a day drug habit, and I'm starting with nothing, you know? So I had to move, you know? I would meet up with this dope dealer real early in the morning. I would take him to get his like re-up stash. He would break me off. I would take that break it in half, sell half of it, use the rest so I wouldn't feel sick,
and then just keep on doing that. It was insidious.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Yeah.
I thought about it quite a bit.
Yeah. What is the worst experience you had out in the street? Like you almost got killed, or I know there's a million stories, but what's one that stands out to you where you're like, this was a crazy ass?
It's funny. It's almost like someone listening to think we set this up, right? But the first one that comes to mind when you ask that is a good.
Well, I can assure people, this is not set up. This is a pure conversation.
Yeah. We know each other well, so you know where you
we've
know where
never
to take
had
it,
this in depth of a conversation. Though,
no, never.
Okay.
And I don't really get this deep normally.
Yeah.
So I did journal about this once. So I'm sitting on this mattress, burnt mattress, and we had no power. We used to have to go. This is they call it trap house, right? Whatever you call it.
Boynton Beach.
In Boynton, yep. Mm-hmm. And you used to have to go steal water to fill up your 5-gallon bucket to fill up the toilet so you could, go to the bathroom to flush the toilet, that type of thing, right? Like bottom of the barrel. And I remember sitting on this couch, on this mattress, and this dude was sitting next to me. I don't even remember his name. And I remember he had overdosed, but no one could leave the trap house. You couldn't come out. Unless, like we weren't going to call the ambulance. Is the bottom line.
So let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Explain to the viewers and listeners what's a trap house for those that don't know.
Yeah, like a drug, like where you sell drugs out of, right? So a drug dealer would sell dope out of there, and if you knew him, you could come inside and just hang out in there. So you'd probably have like 6-7 people in there, I think, at given times. It was like an abando, they call it, abandoned house, over there in Cherry Hill, which is in Boynton. And so we're all sitting in there, and this kid's sitting there, and he's laying on the mattress against the wall, and I'm there, and I'm just doing what I do, smoking crack, and he's overdosing, but we have nowhere to go. No one has a car. I didn't have my car then. What we were waiting for is someone to come with their vehicle, throw him in a vehicle, go drop him off at Bethesda, and then we would you would drop him off at the emergency room and take off, because everyone was scared, even though there's like a law where they can't arrest you. But anyway, so that's what because there was no other way. We're not calling the police or because the police are coming with 911. So I remember him, and I remember his eyes. His eyes were kind of open. He was taking a gasp for breath every maybe 30 seconds or something. And I did have this realization right there, man. And it was one of the the complete paradox, right? Of like when I was in Afghanistan, we lost this young man named Wilson, right? And it's probably the first time I watched somebody pass away. And he had got blown up by an IED, and I won't go into detail because his family's on my Facebook and everything.
I think we get it.
Just the man of all men. But when we were loading him up, he was alive by all the adrenaline and the morphine that we had given him. And I remember him looking into my eyes and the blank stare, right? And I remember sitting on that mattress, and so that was 2008. Now we're in 2016 or 17 when this happens, and I remember looking at him, at this kid dying next to me, and it was like the same blank look, And I remember having that thought of the two, and I don't know what I thought about, just being like, the fuck, But what did I do? I lit up, and I continued to get high. And I thought that kid had died. I ended up seeing him 6 months later. I don't know how on earth he survived. Saw him in another same type of environment, but he was alive. But just that parallel is one of the craziest. But it really summed it up for me, right? Over there, when Wilson passed away, the mission continued for another 6 to 8 hours. When his kid's passing away next to me, the mission is to not feel, right? To get as high as I can. And that mission had to continue too, Yeah.
It
was wild.
Yeah. So you're out on the streets until you said what year?
Well, 2018, I was given the opportunity to go out to Austin, Texas, to a little nonprofit treatment center.
So how did that happen?
That's It's a long story. So I had a temporary sponsor in Miami. I had been living in Miami for a while, at a treatment center for a little bit, and then relapsed. Minute I relapsed, ended up in the hospital, and at this point, everyone was done with me. My parents, rightfully so. My wife had moved back to New York, ex-wife now, right? She left, and I had nobody, man, and no one was calling there. I had a tube in my throat, and the one guy that came to see me was this guy Lane, who was my sponsor at the time. And he kind of tried to keep in touch with me. You know, I ended up running out of that hospital too, you know, whatever. But I was sitting in a hotel, and I was finally tired, man. I was sitting in a hotel here in Boynton, and I was just tired. And somehow, I don't even know, because it was, you know, I stay up for 6-7 days, you know, just trying to keep going. And because you know when you go to sleep, you're going to wake up and you're going to be sick in the morning. So anyway, I get this guy Lane. I don't know if he called. I don't even think I had a phone, so that's why it's weird. I guess I called him, and he's like, look, I can get your parents to help with a plane ticket to get you to Austin. He lived in Texas half the time. He's like, and there's this male treatment facility. All they do is work 12 steps. And I think, you know, if you're willing to go, you can fly home with me, because he was going back to Austin. And he got my parents to do it, and I was like desperate as can be. And so I did it. And I went out there, and I went right into that treatment center. And that's when in 2018 I spent 10 months sober.
Who paid for that?
So a guy named Cole Shiflett that owns, it was called Solstice Recovery. It was a nonprofit. He basically said, you know, they told him I was a Marine, and, you know, he knew a little bit of my story. He's like, no questions asked, just get him out here. If they can pay something, fine, you know. And I went out there, and I think maybe we ended up paying $2,000 out of the $12,000, which is still a drop in a bucket compared to other places.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and when I relapsed and then got clean again in 2019, he brought me back for no money. And he's like my big brother now, you know.
How long were you in that for? That rehab?
That 30 days.
30 days.
30 days, worked steps, went to a sober living, got involved with the program, AA, and did really well for a while.
NA at all?
Yeah, all of them.
All of
NA,
them.
CA. I'm not a big... I got sober, and I say sober because I got sober through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now I go to all NA meetings. Same principles, you know, different... And they all have, you know, they have a
different
little...
drug.
Yeah, and they all have a different... You know, they have a little rivalry, which I think is ridiculous, you know. But it's kind of like...
Certainly is ridiculous.
Yeah. So...
Yeah. Kind of like the two, you know, basic trainings in the Marines.
Or like Army, Marine, you know, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Like we're all in the fight for the same thing.
So you get out of there, and what year are we in now for that?
So the first time was 18. I stayed sober 10 months, relapsed in November, coming back here to visit my kid, right? Relapsed. And then finally March 2019. And in that 5 months that I was out using again, it was just the worst, because I'd had a taste of recovery. I had a taste of like clarity. I had gotten some things back, you know, and again, I didn't have my wife or my daughter. They were in New York. You know, I'd gotten into a relationship that was really good for a little bit and then wasn't. But thank God for that girl, because she saved my life a couple times when I overdosed, you know, so I owe her a lot too. But then, so then finally got sober 2019, and that's really when I never looked back.
So 2019, you get sober, you come back to South Florida, or no?
No. I stayed out there, started working at a adolescent treatment facility, up until I had 10 months sober, so not even 9 months sober. So like end of November 2019, my ex-wife, Paula, calls me. She says, I need you to come be you come be a dad, like you're doing the right thing. Now, she didn't even know about that 5-month relapse, so I was being dishonest with her for a little bit, but I didn't want to hurt her.
Exactly.
And I talked to my sponsor, I talked to my therapist, and they're like, you're doing the right thing. You'll tell her when the time is right. Like, she doesn't need to go through that again. So she thought I had like a year and a half or whatever. So I went up to New York, man. I went up to New York with nothing, a couple $100. I rented a room. You know, this is where faith really kicked in. You know, it's like, it's a principle in AA, and it's like, they were like, I was like, I need more money, and they're like, you'll never go, you know? So I went up there, and I started doing that, and slowly built my life back, man. Saw my daughter on the weekends. One day turned into 2, 2 days turned into 3. You know?
So from one addict, an alcoholic to an alcoholic NA guy, you're up there, you're by yourself pretty much. You got this new job, you're in a new environment.
Yeah.
Those random fucking Wednesday nights when there's nothing to do, those are the most dangerous times.
Agreed.
Right? Yep. Did you ever hit that point where you're like you're really on the verge, or were you just dead set like, I am done with this?
So I had a couple of those when I was still in Austin at like maybe 4 months sober, maybe 10, Once I got up there, I was really entrenched in AA. So I had found, one of the things they tell you to do is when you go somewhere, raise your hand, tell them you're an alcoholic, and tell you, you're new to the area. Something I would never do because my ego's too big, like, fuck you, bro. Like, I don't.
You don't need to know my business.
Yeah. But I did that.
Yeah.
I met some really good guys. One guy that I'm texting with just before I walked in here, like some younger guys that were had years, and they swallowed me up, man. They were cool, Then we started going to meetings and stuff, and the gym is my thing. Yeah, I got lonely a lot. I had like I'd said, I had a relationship going in Austin that was like on the verge of, and then my wife and I were she was dating a guy. So that wasn't going to happen anymore, which that's one of the biggest things I had to do, is come to terms with, like, I'm not getting my wife back. Like, be a co-parent. Like, don't worry, you gave that up for that, So I wasn't trying to get her back. But the gym, I'd go to meetings, I'd go to work, I'd hit the gym. Like, I'd go 2-3 times sometimes,
And as they say, there's a meeting every hour of every day.
Yeah.
You just have to find it.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
all right. So you do your time up there. What was the next step?
So slowly, started getting more into my daughter's life, and she was like going on 5 when I got up there. So she was in kindergarten, and so a year into it, let's say, I was fully back in her life. We were splitting time. I had finally, a big thing was like I had no credit, right? I had no credit, no nothing. I bought my wife's old car so she could get her new car, and I saved up money to buy that.
So you still had somewhat of a relationship with her.
Yeah. So my wife,
co-parenting relationship.
Because when she told me to come back, she has never held my daughter against me or as a pawn. Like, I did terrible things to her. Never once did she say, "You're not seeing Kendall." It was, "You're not seeing Kendall till you get your shit together," because I'm not putting her through what you put us through. And I'm so forever grateful for her. And this is why I moved to New York when she told me to. This is why I probably never could get into another relationship, because like she was always, my daughter's 1 and she's 1A. Partly because she's the gatekeeper to my daughter, but also she earned that, And so once I got sober, it was like, I made a commitment to her, and I can't put someone else ahead of her. Like, and these girls I dated like
you still loved her,
and I loved her to death.
I don't care how mushy that sounds; it's true.
And girls would tell me, like the girl I was dating, and hopefully, I would love to tell her she was right, to be honest with you, but she's like, "You're not over her," and I thought I was, though. I genuinely thought I had moved past it, but I guess she was right in hindsight. But so my wife and she broke up with the dude. And her and I were able to, because she was very respectful of him, and I was respectful of him. I didn't want to be at first, but he was a good dude. And so when they broke up, we were able to co-parent more. We were hanging out more, do things with our kid, with Kendall, and then we just ended up like, it's been like 3.5 years. We just got back together. It was like, and one of the conversations we had is like, I said I was finally, because I had like 3 years. I came clean to her that I didn't have as much time as I thought. Earlier, like maybe a little while earlier, she was totally understanding of that. She understood why, and she had seen who I am now, and seen how I just have been elevating in my life. And I said to her, I said, "Look, you have every right to never talk to me again. Like, let's just get that on. You have every right. If you said you never want to talk to me again, and we'll just co-parent, understood. Because of everything that's going on. But if you want to get back together and you want to do this with me, like, I've worked too hard to be looking over my shoulder. I've worked too hard to be questioned, or the past brought up. And I'll tell you what, dude, that woman has never brought up the past. She's never like tried to track me on my phone. Nothing. And it's been, it's still mind-boggling to me, but I guess she knows me. She's known me for, going on 20 years. So she knows now what to look for, Yeah.
So where in all this through living in the streets and getting your shit together and, getting back with life, where did the Marines and your friends and the guys that you went over with, where were they in the picture? Yeah. Or was it even in the picture?
No, look, the guy who taught me how to be a leader, the guy who taught me how to be a Marine, Jeff Richburg. I don't even like calling him Jeff. He's Sergeant Richburg to me. Even when we were, I picked up rank pretty quick and we were both sergeants at one point, which was crazy to me. I call him Big Dog because I don't like calling him by his first name. I have that much respect for him. He brought me up twice to South Carolina to try and help me. And the second time, one of the, I may even get emotional now. Like one of the things that made me hate myself more than anything was I stole from him. He has a family. He's got a daughter, a daughter and a son now. And he went out of town one weekend and I stole his guns, pawned them, and that was just, again, that's when I was like, man, I'm not coming back. This is a man that I love. Taught me more than maybe anyone. And if I'm going to do this to him, another one of my young Marines who I'm going to see get married in 2 weeks, his name is Richardson. I love this kid, man. He's my little brother. We've had so many like deep conversations outside of the Marine Corps. I remember, I can tell you the hallway I was in a Hampton Inn, and I wasn't staying at the Hampton Inn. I was using their phone to call him or their computer, and I hit him on Facebook to send me money. This is a kid that I took on my second deployment, and he put his trust in me, and I hit him up for money, and that was just, so they were always there for me, My buddy Walton, he and I both have struggled with substances. We kind of went back and forth trying to help each other. He's still alive, thank God. So the Marine Corps was always there for me, But I really thought I was just going to die. My hope was that I was just going to die because I didn't think I was going to make it out. That I would just finally get overdose, and then they could just show everybody my Marine Corps picture. My daughter could be like, "This is my dad, war hero. Look at it," And that would be not junkie dad who came around for 20 years,
Yeah.
But so I don't know what you're asking, but that's where the Marine Corps, they were always there for me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, when I got my shit together, they were always we are thicker than thieves.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
That's why I get so mad when they were talking about like people online, people that want to talk about being a veteran because they want to. I don't want to go there too far into this, but when they want to ask for all the handouts or they want to act like an asshole, and it's like they're not to me like being what you and I are, like I have no tolerance for that.
Yeah. I've come to find that out that veterans. This is the ugly truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so ugly. It's just this is the truth of it. Everybody thinks on the outside that we are all this band of brothers and sisters and there's a loyalty amongst us. Right. And, veterans are people too.
Yep.
Some are better than others. Some have ulterior motives. Some use it to their advantage. Some take advantage. Some hold it as a badge. This is like, I'm just going to say it since it's out there. You get the people like, I'm a disabled veteran. Yeah, like that's the first thing you get from them, right? And for whatever reason, I am not judging them by any means. Right. This is just our experiences. Sure. And they evidently have a reason for that, but it just doesn't present well in the veteran space.
No, we're not victims. A lot of us,
we're not victims.
We're not victims. And look, I would do it. Like now, I was doing it for a reason because I was, you know,
you're a junkie.
I was a junkie, so I'll never judge anyone for doing it. But like when you're like capable and you're like I do everything I can now to like change that narrative of the narrative that I was creating. So it's not, like I was part of the problem. But we're not victims. In fact, we're the opposite, right? We're supposed to, it just blows my mind. And it's very frustrating. Because like you said, I tell people, I actually made a little video about that, you know? It's like,
sorry.
Yeah, like, just because you're a veteran, don't trust them. You know what I mean? You better get to know that person because.
And you know that firsthand.
I know that firsthand, yeah. You know, there's this guy asking for money now. My sergeant major, my old first sergeant called me, and I don't know the story. I'm not, we have to know what's going on, you know?
Yeah, that's firsthand experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And on the other side of the coin, though, if these people really needed the help, we would give it to them.
Sure.
You know, we would give it to them right. But you have to watch for ulterior motives
100%
in this world.
And
I learned this, and I grew up pretty street smart. I had a lot of life experiences. And I went into the military with this idea that the military is above board and everything's above board, and I'm going to be a security police, and I'm not going to see murder and suicide and any of that. I was shocked when I was told that that's what you're going to see, right? Getting the last day of basic training. So we do all have our issues. We all have things, but it's when it's a different bond. It's a different bond in being a veteran, whereas you do kind of bend a little. Like I've had people in my life that are just like, I'm done with you. Like done. But if it's a veteran, I think that's why we do what we do. And that's not the case for everybody though. That will
definitely
step up.
Sure.
But we have to know why.
Have to know why. Yeah.
Yeah. That's important.
There's a lot of gray area, or it's a very thin line, But,
yeah.
So you know this too. Like the longer we do it, the more you can tell who's full of shit and who's not. I hate to say it.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. So you, how do you end up with Haven?
So I bounced around a little bit. Good friend of mine who was in charge of the treatment center I went to like 4 times. They were starting a big veteran program in Ocala, and he asked me if I wanted to come work there. Another thing where I just jumped on faith, right? Because I'd living in New York, I'd worked so hard to get my daughter back and everything, and now you're asking me to move down to Florida. So what I did is I would travel there every Sunday night until Thursday, and I would spend those 4 days with the veterans, building that veteran program with him and the team. And I lived on the treatment center, and so I learned so much. I learned all facets and kind of from all the different jobs and things like that. I just got to see it from the inside out. And I'd take him to the gym every day, 5 a.m. It was great for me. I had like 2 years sober at the time. And his name's Chris Hanukkah. He's like a mentor and now become a good friend of mine. Anyway, he left that company. And so I ended up getting another opportunity to kind of progress up. So I did. And so slowly, I just kind of, not slowly, pretty quickly progressed my way up to where like I had always known about the Haven, but I was at another facility, which good people, but it told me they were going to do all this stuff for this veteran program, and it never panned out. And so that was another, like, I learned a lot from that. It's like, a lot of these places will say like, no, we want to build a veteran program. Okay, well, let's build it. Well, we got to make sure we can get the veterans first. And I said, well, then what's going to happen? Then we get the veterans, and then they're like, oh, but it's going pretty smoothly. It's like, that's not what we discussed. Which again, when you're putting, I always say treatment and capitalism don't work too well, because there's always a bottom line. It always has to win out over a human being. You know what I mean? So if it seems like it's working, yeah, but that's not what we discussed. So again, I had known the owner of the Haven, and I had spoke, and he was good friends with some people I know. And the guy who's in charge of all the business development I knew for a couple of years. And so they finally, they kind of approached me at the right time. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. I was trying to move down to Florida. I was still living in New York. They had an adolescent program in New York I got involved in, which I still stay involved in. which was where I got my start pretty much. And I just learned all the, I'd known a lot about from the other side, right? The addict experience and like how hard it was to get into treatment, how hard it was to like maneuver through the VA. I had that down pat. So then I learned the more the business side of it. And so when I came to the Haven, I had a pretty good working knowledge of like what's going on. And the owner, it's one owner, and he's willing to do like, if we have a good idea and we approach him with it, it's not like, well, get us 5 vets and then we'll fucking, spend the money. It's like, okay, good, do it. And that was big for me. That shows that you're putting, I guess, it's a for-profit industry. There's a lot of money in it. I get paid very well. So like someone that was willing to like go take that extra mile before the money was there was very important for me.
Do you ever look at the parallel of you go over to the desert, blown up a couple times, come back to Paris Island, next thing you know, you're in weapons, and you see all these new recruits coming through. You've lived it. You see what's going on. You see where they're going. You already know. And you train them to whatever the capacity of your job was, and you talk to them, and then fast forward, you were a junkie living in the street. Next thing you know, you're at a rehab, and you're seeing new addicts come in, and what are you doing? It's like the same thing, right?
It's very true. I never looked at it like that.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Says a lot about you.
Well, I appreciate that.
No, I'm serious.
And now it's tougher because there's a fewer number that are actually like graduating boot camp, graduating using to being sober. I mean, I think this is why I tell guys too, I'm like, man, like, I think I am very good at what I do now. I think I've become very good at what I do, and I don't say that in like an egotistical way. Of like I listen and I like you and I were everywhere. Like I go to every event and I absorb, and I become very good at what I do. But the bottom line is, like I said earlier, I got this job from all of the junky shit I did before and all the treatment centers and all the bullshit I had to go through. And so I tell vets, I'm like, there are not that many, and it's true. Like the guys like me that check all these combat boxes, homeless, all this stuff, we don't make it. We die. And I'm like telling these guys,
one way or another,
through something. And I'm like, if you can get out of this, like you'll get hired in a heartbeat, and you'll excel, because like if you put any of that junky behavior into the positive things with your discipline from the military, come on, you'll outlast everybody.
So you're going back to the street smarts mentality, the survival mentality.
Survival, 100%.
If you have that, then I always said, street smarts and common sense will get you through life.
Yeah.
Book smarts can come later.
Agreed.
And I know a lot of people that I grew up with that lived by that, and they ended up okay.
I think you're right. The book smarts can come later, and I know some good therapists that started as therapists, right? And now they understand kind of what we go through. But there's a lot of like I've had a lot of like therapists that came from great schools, and I was like,
so let's talk about that for a second. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. That is a thing. Mm-hmm. That is a thing. I've been through my share, and I've, I talk to them, and I'm thinking, and God bless them for what they do. It's a hard career field. It's a hard choice. You are the sponge to a lot of misery, right? True. And so they have a heart, and they want to help. Their intentions are true. But when you're sitting across from me, and you haven't lived my life experiences, and yours and I are totally different, but there's still our experiences. Like, how can you break me down? Like, how can you tell me? And I had that issue for a while, but you know what? And then the right one, the right psychologist landed, thank God, right in front of me. And although she hasn't lived those experiences, some of them are really, when they're good, they're really fucking good.
100%. Yeah.
And that's when you say, now I trust you. Like, as I say, our relationship is kind of like a Tony Soprano, Dr. Melfi type situation.
Right.
But it works.
Without the hooking up.
What's that?
Didn't they?
No, without the hooking up,
yeah. That's Lorraine Bracco, right?
That's Lorraine Bracco, yeah. Karen.
Yes.
But when you do find one,
dude, I agree.
Because I've sat across from them going, this is going nowhere for me.
They've had me in therapy so many times.
Yeah.
And I've had 2.
Yeah.
Like I know some good ones now, but as far as like ones that help me, Jamie Salzberg, which if you're listening to this and you need there's a free publicity for her. She's not a veteran. But you know what it comes down to for me? I realized the other guy was a veteran and he actually worked at the VA. And I'm the kind of guy, I'm looking on your walls. I'm seeing where you graduated from. I'm looking at your books, and then I'm going to ask you about the book. You know what
Johnny,
I mean?
the life you lived, you walk into every room and look at everything.
Well, that's true.
It's just built into you now.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, so, and I'm going to call it just like any other, like, what's that? If you're in a random room. And so, but I was that kind of guy. And, but I think what it comes down to is you got to, as a therapist, if you earn the respect, then you're good, right? It's easier to earn respect of someone who's been through what you've been through, so that's why. But if you haven't been through that, but you can earn my respect or, anyone's respect.
But when you go in there, it's you. It's not as mad about it, just like going to NA or AA. It's not about everybody else in the room. It's for me.
Right.
If you get my respect, which is what really matters.
It's true. Yeah. Make me, because I always say this too, and I say this when we're building the veteran program or some of these, the staff will ask me like, what, I want to be better with the veterans. I'm like, earn their trust. I said, I want to feel safe when I'm in treatment or in a room with a therapist. I want to feel safe, not safe from like being shot at or something, right? Like none of that superficial shit. Like I want to feel safe in that I can open up and that you're not going to just give me some bullshit answer,
Textbook, the textbook.
Yeah,
answer.
I had a guy tell me. He was a therapist at the Naval Hospital I was still in. And I finally opened up. I told him about some like some dead that I had to collect up and everything. And just shit I wouldn't, usually share. And I told him about it. And he's like, oh, well. And one of the things I deal with now is like I'm still numb to death, right? Like when people and I see people die all the time in this field, right? And it's like, and people call me some of these, and they're still emotional about it. And I'm like, I have to tell them straight up, I'm not the guy to talk to when it comes to someone dying. I don't have that in me. I'm working on it, right? Yeah. But I know myself. And so that's what I still deal with to this day. But I was telling this guy this is 10, 15 years ago. And he said, well, I know how you feel. I was an altar boy when I was 14. And, we used to have to do funerals, We used to have to be an altar boy for the funerals. And I never went back. I was like, all right, dude. Like, I'm not saying that can't be traumatic for a young kid or something, but like you can't compare that to like picking up limbs of a 22-year-old man. Like, I left there so fucking angry.
I always say rule number 1 to interviewing is shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right, if you're the interviewer.
Right.
And don't make it about yourself. Right.
Oh.
But sometimes these things come along, and I have to inject on this.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And my first wife passed away from breast cancer. She had the most aggressive type of breast. She had
tragic.
Yeah, she had inflammatory breast cancer. It's the only one that goes to the brain. So this was not an ordinary, year, right? And so I lived through that, and I don't drink, right? I stayed sober. My kids were a little older. They were, so I didn't have to deal with little kids. And she passes, and I remember someone saying to me, and this is right exactly on the spot of what you just said. They said, oh, I know how you feel. My grandmother died of breast cancer. I said, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I was like, your fucking grandmother?
Yeah.
What? First of all, your fucking grandmother's supposed to die before you. Your spouse isn't.
Right.
When you're only 47 years old.
Right.
And you've been married 20 years. Yeah. Like that, like people just.
No clue.
It's sometimes, and this is a bit of advice for everybody watching and listening.
Right.
Sometimes, like being a good interviewer, you need to shut the fuck up.
It's true.
Really.
Yeah.
It's better sometimes to say nothing.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I know what you like. You think, did you really just compare these things? Yeah. Oh, God bless you for trying to connect with me.
Right.
I appreciate it, but you just made something maybe a little worse.
And this was this was a guy in the Navy, you know, like what, dude? But yeah, no, it makes you very It sure as hell doesn't help.
No, there you go. But they think they are. So,
right.
You know, just a word of advice in the future: just think before you talk to somebody about a situation that they might have been through. You know, you were an altar boy and you saw that, but were you the one pulling them out? Were you the one carrying them? Were you the one dragging them?
Right.
Yeah. Nah.
That's what I said about And the doc up in Albany the other therapist that I really Doc Golly, he 100. Like he was the type where if he didn't understand, he would say, "I've never been through that." Like that gains my respect. Just be honest. Like I don't know how that feels, but have you thought about, you know? And then gives me some sort of solution that might work.
So getting back to the therapy and talking about therapists, and you said when you go to the rehab, you want to feel safe, right?
Yeah.
I think it's also, as I was in a 3-month rehab, and I think it's also you have to look at somebody and say, "You get me."
Yeah.
Like you have to have that real connection. Like this person gets me or this person gets it.
Right.
Like because I was in with, I don't know, there was 18 of us and then they broke us off into 2 groups. So this person gets the 9 of us.
Right.
You know, or close to it, that's important.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes that's the difference between a good therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist. I don't even care about psychiatrists.
Right.
I think psychiatrists are just, and they can just write prescriptions.
Yeah,
I'd rather much talk to a psychologist or a
slaves to the
therapist.
pharmaceutical company, but that's a whole nother
conversation.
Yeah. What's the new miracle drug you're going to pay me to?
To push. Yeah.
I've been on all those too through the VA. I've been on every one of those SSNRIs and antidepressants.
Yeah.
I've been through it all.
And you and I have had this discussion. The VA is it serves a purpose. And I always say, I've come to this conclusion that if the VA didn't exist, what would we do?
Sure.
At least we have something, right?
Yeah.
And it's a big ship to turn around. And you and I have had a couple of discussions on opinion on the VA.
Sure.
But I think we both agree that it's what we have, you know, and we want it to get better. In this case, it's almost like in what you do now with Haven and the what. All right, before we won't even talk about that. What does your program do? Let's get into that.
Right.
What's the Haven for Heroes?
My main focus now, because we are kind of at the we take commercial insurance, right? We take TRICARE for those that are struggling with substance abuse, mental health, that are retired. But the main how most of my veterans were coming is through community care, right? Through the VA. When the VA doesn't have a bed available, or if the person wants to go out into the community, they would send us the referrals, and that's where my a lot of my beef with the VA is now, because they're not optimizing community care. So you got a woman who, for instance, Friday called. I got a call from the fire department, and she had just come out of a Baker Act from drinking, and the guy at the fire department, who I've known for 40 years, since I was a baby, actually, he's been trying to help this woman, and he does the outreach. So he tried to get her into the VA. Well, the VA said, "Oh yeah, we'll set her up for an appointment on Tuesday." Well, this is Thursday or Friday. He's like, "I don't think she's going to make it till then." So luckily, we're able to take that person immediately under the Emergent and the Compact Act. But had we not, they could, if they didn't have a bed till Tuesday, they could send her out to the community. But they're not doing that. So, and again, there's different things that go into that, and there's, again, great people that are involved in that aren't able to do what needs to be done. So now my focus, and we did get her the help she needed through the Compact, thank God. So she's with us now. But my main focus is finding the homeless, or the ones that are struggling the most with alcohol, benzos, or suicide, because we can kind of get them right into treatment, and get them 30 days of treatment. So really, that's what we're focusing on now, is more of like a triage, like a emergent, just what it is, an emergency kind of basis. Now, the program is structured where you should go from detox residential to our PHP, which is in Delray. Have you been over there yet?
Not yet, no.
So you have to come over. Oh, yeah, you were at the detox.
I was at the detox.
So PHP
it's quite a facility, too, by the way.
It's awesome, but
Yeah.
wait, you got to come down to Delray where it's like, it's
You
more of like
you just never invite me.
I know.
You're too busy for me.
You introduced me to too many friends, so I just hang out with them. But no, so you'll have to come and see. But it's more apartment style living. It's better for mental health, I think, because there's more. You can walk outside. It's a whole compound. It's an old apartment complex with a pool, everything. But we also do like different TMS machine. I'm not very good at the whole thing, but it's basically like. So the goal with that is it's oh God, I can't remember, I don't know the name, but it focuses in on like if you were like when we get people that are very depressed and we give them an antidepressant, it sometimes takes a week for it to kick in. So now they're in bed for a week. They're missing out on a week of therapy. They're missing out on a week of like getting better. So this is a way to get them up out of bed, get them into the TMS machine, which is for trauma, and also for we also have a ketamine program now, which is Spravato, which that actually is specifically for depression. That'll get you up out of bed day one. You go into the treatment, and you can kind of start, participating in your getting better without having to wait 7 to 10 days for some sort of SSNRI or antidepressant to kick in. But that program is up to 6 months, and I think, we used to be able to get veterans for at least 90 days, like you said you did, where they can actually clear the fog webs in the first 30, right? Because it takes, if you've been drinking and drugging. You're not all there, Now
you think you are,
right? So with 30 days, you got like 2 weeks. You start feeling like yourself, and now you only got 2 weeks. You got to start planning on your discharge. So that's the program that we've really focused on. Again, we have a lot of TRICARE, like retired guys, men and women. We do a lot of work with the Coast Guard as well. We have a Marine from Camp Lejeune. So I love that, because I like to be, I get to run groups over there and stuff like that.
And Haven is nationwide, right?
Haven's nationwide, yeah. Indiana, Arkansas, Arizona, Massachusetts. We have a great place in Jersey that we take veterans at in Jersey.
Yeah.
Arkansas, we take veterans. Florida, Arizona.
Is there a website?
Yeah, havenhealthmanagement.org is pretty much, you can go there and kind of, make your way to the other sites.
Right.
See everything.
Do they reach out to you?
Yeah, you could reach out to me. I mean, that's when it comes to like the adolescents that I work with, and then specifically the veterans, I like to kind of be all hands-on. Like we were talking about control before.
Yeah.
Off the air. Like I like to have control over that because, first of all, I know what to say and how to say it, and I know how to navigate. So, definitely hit me up. I don't know how you put my number on this, whatever.
You can say it if you want.
Yeah, it's 512-620-4038. 512-620-4038.
John Shrey.
John Shrey, yeah. Shrey. We
Shrey.
Also say,
I always say Shrey.
Yeah, we take it. We're good with that. It's SCHREY. But yeah, you could hit Scott up,
Yeah,
Scott
absolutely.
and I speak every other day.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. When he decides to answer my text
No,
messages.
I don't answer the phone calls. I text you
That's
back.
right.
I'm good with that.
I was just going to say this. I got a text from one day that says, "Don't bother calling me. I won't answer." I was like, how much more blunt can you be?
Honesty, right? Principle of the first step, man.
That was great. I think we need to circle back. We have an incomplete story now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So, wife and daughter, co-parenting.
Yep.
Now, right?
Yeah. So, we had that conversation. We get back together. We didn't live together. We lived separately for about a year and a half. And then we started making plans. I thought I was going to be stuck in upstate New York forever. She made a comment about wanting to be in Florida. I said, wait, what? And my eyes lit up. That's all I had to hear. I was like, let's do it. So we planned well, looked for a house. Last August, we bought a house in Boca Raton, literally
together,
literally about 3 blocks from where about 3 or 4 blocks from where I grew up. Together, we are not officially married, but we were, we're married. I mean, we've been through it all. And our relationship is just 100 times better than it ever was before. Obviously, during all the bullshit. but just communication and just honesty, transparency. It's just like my life would never be where it was now had I not gone through what I went through. And it sucks mainly for her and for my parent. You know what I mean? And luckily my daughter's never, ever remembered me taking a drink
That's
or a
big.
drug.
My kids have never seen me drink.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
So
life
in the end,
wild.
She waited for you. She stuck it out. She trusted you again.
Again, yeah.
And it's a happy ending. You got the beautiful house, the beautiful wife.
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's unbelievable. And it's almost like sometimes I'm hesitant to tell that story because it's like not everybody is that lucky.
Yeah.
But I will say, I'm always clear, like the only reason I know that it ended up that way is because I didn't try and get it back.
You weren't lucky. You worked for it.
Right.
There's no luck involved.
But I just
with
worked
that.
to get better and be a
Yes.
man and be a father and a co-parent. And then I got the benefits of
that.
this.
You worked to get sober.
100%.
You worked to get off the junk.
Yep.
You worked to get your life together. And there's no luck involved with that, my friend.
I appreciate it.
That's work.
Yeah.
And it's not easy work.
No.
And this is the fruits of the work. That's the result. I love a happy ending, my friend.
man.
I love a happy ending.
Good shit.
Yeah, yeah. So did we forget anything? Is there anything? Haven, you want to talk one more time? Website?
havenhealthmgmt.org. I mean, you could email me at jshry@havenhealthmgmt.org or just give me a call again.
Yeah.
Hit Scott up. But yeah, really, all that aside, man, if you need help, we say this all the time. Everyone always asks, what's the one advice you have? Like, we got to know. Yeah. We got to know. We're out there. We're in the streets. We're in these events. But these events that we go to, you're not going to, right? The people that we want to help aren't going to them. How do we get to you? And that you have to kind of meet us halfway, or at least just step out and let us know, you know? Yeah. And then we, you know, we have so many, you've interviewed people almost weekly. We have so many assets and so many different outlets that we can, you know, kind of set you up with. Mission United, you know, hit them on that board too. Jonathan, like people dying to help. Herd Foundation, you know, Ashley, you know,
22 Project.
22 Project. It's like, you know, but it all starts with, you know, we have to know.
Yeah.
Because most of these, you're in a dark room by yourself, like
you could be alone in a crowd too.
100%. Yeah.
You know, that's I know that feeling.
Yeah.
So, well, all right, my friend, thanks for coming on. I know we did an audio podcast a little over a year ago, and that was a great one. But now that we're in the video world, this is its own standout, you know, interview. I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing,
Sure.
you know, your experiences, because that's what makes the difference, you know, the connection.
Yeah.
Thanks for what you do for us out there. I truly appreciate that. I'm not saying it because I'm behind a microphone.
No, I appreciate you.
You know, I appreciate you. I respect you. And I knew the first time I interviewed you, what did I say when we were done? I said, I think we're going to be friends.
Yeah, I know. It's wild. And we are.
And then you get that phone call from me one day saying, hey, do you feel like being on my board of directors? You're like, me?
No, I think, yeah. And I think it's, you know, back to the one man, one mic. It's important, right? Like some people aren't good at journaling, right? Some people aren't good at like writing down, you know, or you know, this is a good way. And it's not easy at first, but it's definitely like cleansing.
Yeah, and you know it too.
Yeah.
You do a lot of podcasts.
100%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, all right. Let me do my outro and then stick around for a second. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you like it, share it. If you didn't like it, well, thanks for watching and listening for 1 hour and 2 minutes. I appreciate that. We built a bridge today, a recovery bridge. I love every bridge that we build on this podcast. And again, if you want to get in touch with Johny Shrey, just rewind. He gave you his information twice. And again, if you want to see what's going on with the One Man One Mic Foundation, go to oneman1micfoundation.org. It's very outside the box for veterans that want to connect. And that's it. So until then, I will see you, or you will see me.